Let's talk about something that seems mysterious but is actually grounded in pure acoustic logic. The acoustic labyrinth in ribbon microphones. You see, ribbon microphones are velocity microphones. They respond to the speed of air particles, not just the pressure. That gives them their unique, warm, and natural sound. But how do they get their directional character? Like figure 8, cardioid, or omni? That's where the acoustic labyrinth comes in. Inside of the mic, behind and below the ribbon, there's a carefully engineered chamber, often filled with damping material like horsehair or felt. This is the acoustic labyrinth. It's essentially a tube filled with horsehair placed behind the rear of the ribbon motor. The ribbon motor sits on the acoustic labyrinth and the rear of the ribbon is covered by a tube that goes into the labyrinth. Pull the ribbon motor off and you get either a box or a cylinder, which is the labyrinth. Here it is, unopened. If you took off the top of the labyrinth, you would see a lot of holes filled with horsehair. Pull out the horsehair, and you will see that the holes pass all the way through the labyrinth. Look really closely as the tube comes out of the bottom, and you will see that there is a gap connecting one tube to the next. With the cover in place, it is like the tube was bent to go back up through the labyrinth. If we took a piece of string and started where the ribbon motor tube fits into the middle of the labyrinth, and then ran a string down and back up, connecting all of the tubes, we see that we use a lot of string. Now, let's remove the tube from the mic. If we were to stretch out the tube, it would be longer than you think. On an RCA Veracoustic, the acoustic labyrinth has 15 tubes measuring 1.5 inches each, which, if connected, measures a total of 22.5 inches. An RCA 77 is much longer, with 19 tubes, each measuring 2.25 inches. If connected, it would be a total of 42.75 inches. To keep the math simple, let's just look at a tube measuring 20 inches. The tube length isn't arbitrary. It's an audio delay line. Sound entering the rear of the ribbon motor travels through this tube, reflecting at the end of the tube before it reaches the backside of the ribbon. Why? To time align that rear arrival with front entry, shaping the mic's directionality, cardioid, figure 8, omni. Here's the math. If you want to, you can ignore this bit. Wow, just look at that! Harry Olsen really knew what he was doing. What this means is, using the acoustic labyrinth, we can affect meaningful phase delay down to around 170 Hz, giving the RCA 77DX and Veracoustic true directional behavior even in the low end, not just at mids or highs. Without a long delay line like this, lower frequencies would wrap around too quickly and the mic would lose its cardioid pattern below approximately 300 Hz, reverting to omni. But thanks to the 42.75 inches of tube, the 77DX maintains tight directional control down into the bass, contributing to its warm, full-bodied sound. RCA wasn't guessing. They were tuning the 77DX to be a true pressure gradient mic across a broad band, including bass. That long labyrinth ensures the phase relationships needed to control low-frequency nulls and lobes precisely. So, the labyrinth measurement isn't just trivia, it's proof of engineering finesse, and explains why mics with an acoustic labyrinth sound full and directional, even when the music dips low. One end of the tube is closed. When sound enters this tube through the shutter-controlled rear slot, several things happen. 1. Attenuation. The horsehair acts as an acoustic resistor, absorbing and scattering some of the sound energy, especially higher frequencies. 2. Reflection. Low-frequency waves may reach the closed end and reflect back toward the ribbon. 3. Phase interaction. The reflected wave reemerges slightly delayed and out of phase with the direct front wave, contributing to cancellation or reinforcement, depending on frequency and time alignment. 4. Time delay. This delay affects the phase relationship between front and rear, arriving signals shaping the mic's polar pattern. The size of the shutter opening at the rear of the microphone determines how much sound enters the labyrinth. This, in turn, adjusts how much cancellation or reinforcement happens. That's how the RCA 77 and similar mics provide. Figure 8. Full rear input, minimal phase delay. Cardioid. Partial rear attenuation and phase shift. Omnidirectional. Maximum diffusion and rear equalization. In short, the acoustic labyrinth doesn't just dampen, it delays, reflects, attenuates, and ultimately shapes the entire polar response of the mic. It's a passive analog system for sculpting space and directionality. So in a ribbon mic with an acoustic labyrinth, you get the equivalent of about 6 mics by changing the shutter to the desired polar pattern. ENAC hopes you have learned something today.